Hello, Instagram. It's Thursday. It's Thursday during quarantine, and you know what that means. Doesn't really mean anything. I hope everyone is having a good day or a good evening, depending on where you are. The lockdown continues, at least for a little while. We got to be careful breaking out of this, people. We don't want this thing to come back. It's been a good week here. It's been a good week on my IG Lives. It's been fun. We had Todd Frazier on Monday night talking about baseball and his journey. Had Reagan Gomez on Tuesday night talking about acting and taking the world by the reins and producing and directing her own stuff after a while, which she's doing now. And last night, Caravallo was so inspiring with all of her conversation about growing up in Philadelphia, going to animation school in New York, and then going out to LA and working in exactly what she wanted to work in, which is animation, and then taking the reins over at Family Guy and American Dad and Cosmos. We actually didn't get into Cosmos too much. We were mostly about her journey, which was pretty cool. And what else we got? Tonight we got a great guest. We got my pal Al Franken. How about that, huh? Big time. He's a big time guy. One of the original writers on SNL back in 1975, back when it was called Saturday Night Live, or was it Live on Saturday or something? I don't remember. I think it was Saturday Night Live, but Al can clarify that for us. Then he was a senator. Now he's got a sweet podcast. He is for real. He is a sweet man. He is a funny man, and he is probably about the smartest man that I know. And he'll be joining me in just a minute. And yeah, man, I've been busy today. I taught a class at the Savannah College of Art and Design. Did that via Zoom today. Class on directing actors. And then I did an alumni thing with my high school, collegiate school here, talking with my good friend Elizabeth Arnold Weiss, just sharing what our high school has meant to us and the connection that we still have from there. And now I am waiting for my pal Al. What's up, Amanda McCauley? Rosa. Seeing some nice, fun names on here. Matt Lively, great local artist here in Virginia, Richmond. Bunt Young, great cinematographer here as well. And saw Kelly Hanna jumping on here a minute ago, another great artist out in California. And we're talking about passion. You know, the whole thing that we talk about is what drives us and what we are doing in this time of kind of weirdness. What's up, Hobie Bowen, my high school buddy and college roommate, lifelong friend. Al Franken, how do we get on? Let me see if I can invite you on, Al. Does anyone know how to do this? Let me see if I can make this work. Somebody tell me how to invite somebody on. Al, you should see something that says request to join. So I'm going to try to get you on here. Let's see. What does this button do? I might go live. Okay, go live with... Now, how do I request? Oh, here we go. I think I might have this. All right. I think I got my pal Al. It's the first time I did it like that.
Hey,
how you doing, man?
I've been relying on my daughter.
Hi.
That was Mike's fault. He didn't send the thing. That was,
Okay, it's your fault, Mike.
Yeah, there's no blame here.
No blame.
We're here staying positive.
That's your zeitgeist.
I wish I had hair to not comb.
Well, I mean, because of the sheltering and because I just can't get a haircut, and
yeah,
my hair grows really fast. That's interesting to your audience.
There you go. Well, this is the kind of stuff we talk about. I cut mine today, the one guard. Take it all the way down.
Do that. Anyway, I started this pandemic with very short hair. Actually, my hair grows very, very fast.
Yeah, mine has fluctuated between this and slightly longer, and every week I just shave it down. But
That's a good
anyway,
one.
yeah,
Okay.
man. Well, I appreciate you coming on. We've had,
Pleasure. My pleasure.
yeah, man. So we've known each other about what, 6 months, six,
Yep.
7 months,
Yep.
and
We're working on something together, but we're not going to tell anybody what it is.
that's right. It's a top secret project, and if you were looking for visual cues, you might be able to figure it out. But yeah, we're having a good time. I've really enjoyed getting to know you, and I'm a huge fan of yours, as are pretty much all the people that I know. And
Thanks.
first enjoyed you on SNL in the '70s, and
Yeah.
read all the books about the lore of SNL and the crazy stories about you and Tom Davis and the hijinks, which you guys enjoyed and did and created. And I wish I could have been on Saturday Night Live back in the '70s, but I was
Well,
10.
yeah, it was. You were too young. You were too
Yeah, I was
young.
10. Yeah.
Yeah. So, no, it was. Yeah, I started before the show existed, really.
Yeah.
And for anyone who's interested in, I know you've probably read submissions for scripts, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Okay. So we got the job, me and Tom, on SNL. It was 1975, obviously, and this Tom and I we're a comedy team. We did stand up at the Comedy Store, and this William Morris agent saw us at the Comedy Store and asked us to come in and said, "Really like you guys. You're really good writers. Love your material. Have you ever thought of writing for a show?" And we said, "Yeah," and of course, but there was no show for us to write because the only kind of comedy variety that was on at the time was the Tonight Show. Great show, but we aren't really we aren't joke writers. And then there was the Carol Burnett Show, which was really great. It was a great show, but just generationally not us.
Yeah.
And then there was Sonny and Cher, which was crap. So we had nothing to write. So he said, well, why don't you write something for a show that you would like to write for?
There you go.
So we wrote, and I remember this. It was 14 pages, just 14 pages, and it included a newscast, a sketch, and a conceptual film, and a commercial parody.
So you created Saturday Night Live.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Wow. That's my wheelhouse, man. I love what you do. Now let's a lot of what I've been doing is talking about journeys and how people have followed their passion to a fulfilling career and in most ways a fulfilling life. And so let's go way back. You were a kid.
I was a kid.
Yes, I assume you were. No, you were. And I've read some things in some of your books, but talk about when you first realized that you were funny, and how did that play out? Was that with your friends at home? I would assume both.
It involved, I think, some sickness on my mom's part. She just thought I was hilarious. And then this was like at too young, It's like a bad Billy Crystal movie. It's and I remember I used to do, like when I was 3 years old, do an impression of Jackie Gleason.
Okay.
Doing, and away we go. And if we had company, she'd go like, Alan, do Jackie Gleason. So there's that.
Right.
But I was kind of at war with myself. It's not a war with myself. I was born in 1951. In 1957, Sputnik went up, and it petrified America.
Now tell our younger viewers what Sputnik was.
Okay, well, it was the first satellite that man had put in orbit, and the Russians did it.
It beat us.
They beat us into space, and they also had nuclear weapons. So Americans, this was terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
And my parents took me and my brother. My brother's 5 years older than me. Into our living room, sat us down, said, "You boys are going to study math and science so we can beat the Soviets."
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was a lot of pressure to put on a 6-year-old. But we were obedient sons, and we studied math and science. My brother was really good at it. He went to MIT, mm-hmm. majored in physics, and became a photographer.
That's right.
I went to a very, very, select school, and
you went to junior. Yeah, no, you went to Harvard. Harvard guys never say where they went.
Hartford State.
No. Harvard guys never say where they went.
Yes, they do all the time.
Do they?
They work it in, but I try not to.
Right. Well,
my proudest moment in life, maybe. Mm-hmm. Christine Zander, who's a comedy writer, great comedy writer, and worked at SNL for 7-8 years. At one night, like 3 a.m. on a Tuesday night when we write the show, she just was frustrated, and she just went, "These Harvard guys," because we had a lot of former Lampoon people on the show. She goes, "God," and she said, there are 6 Harvard guys on the staff. And I said, "No, there's 7. And she went, "No, Downey, Myers, Beatty." She goes through it, and I go, "And me." And I'd been on the show. She had been on the show for 7 years, mm-hmm. and we had worked together for 7 years, and she didn't know that.
There you go.
And I went like, "I'm a good person."
There you go. That's good. You don't need to flaunt it. You don't need to Harvard bling everywhere. You be you.
Yeah.
So talk to me about what were you. Now I know that you did some comedy beyond imitating Jackie Gleason.
Yes.
Before college, correct?
Very, very early in 2nd
mm-hmm.
grade, I wrote my first show. It was a parody of the girls. We came back from recess. The girls weren't there. Mm-hmm. The teacher said, "We're going to go down the audio visual room, and the girls have the show for you." And they literally did "I'm a Little Teapot" and things like that. Mm-hmm. And I got the boys together, and we did a parody of their show. And Mrs. Morrison, was that? Yes. Mrs. Morrison went, "Alan, why don't we do a show for the parents with the boys and girls?" Mm-hmm. And so I wrote a show, which, and all I can remember from it is that I had I did a sketch, a Civil War sketch. Mm-hmm. And it was in a, field hospital, and the girls were nurses and the boys were wounded soldiers. And one of the jokes was that they heard about Lincoln's assassination on the radio.
Right. Okay.
And that was a joke.
Yeah, I got it.
That's the only joke I remember from it. But that was 2nd grade. So I was sort of on 2 tracks. One, beating the Soviets. And the other was I loved comedy. And, mm-hmm. and I loved comedy because my dad, my favorite thing in life was watching comedians on TV.
Right.
With my dad.
And you liked watching him laugh, probably.
I loved watching my dad. I loved laughing with him. My dad inhaled a pipe his whole adult life.
Right.
And he died from lung cancer at 85, but he was actually fine with that. He loved his pipe.
Right.
But because of that, if he started laughing hard, he would start coughing, and he'd inevitably cough up phlegm.
Yeah.
And so if Johnny Carson said, "Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Buddy Hackett," my mom would leave the room.
Yes.
She'd just walk out.
Yes.
And
Hackett taking on a new meaning.
Yes, and God, I love Buddy Hackett, and I got to work with him later, much later.
Right.
Um,
You can tell a dirty Buddy Hackett joke if you wanted to, but that's up to
really?
you. It's up to you. No, this is all about just being real
Okay,
and
this
being
isn't that
fun.
dirty. I don't think it's that dirty. Okay,
Okay.
so I'm being flown out from New York to LA by some studio or something, so I'm flying first class.
Hmm.
And Buddy
And you went to
Hackett.
Harvard. Okay.
Let's see, what else did I was a senator too.
Oh,
Anyway,
yep.
um, so Buddy Hackett's in the first class there, and I just, Buddy, Jesus, I go up to him finally, and I say, Mr. Hackett, I'm sorry to bother you, but
Hmm.
I have to tell you, I love you. My dad worshiped you. My dad loved you. And he says to me, guy goes into a doctor's office. He's got a dot on his forehead. Doctor says, oh boy, in 6 weeks, you're going to have a penis growing out of your forehead. And the guy says, well, doctor, cut it off. I can't cut it off. It's attached to your brain. So the guy says, so what you're telling me is in 6 weeks, when I get up in the morning and look in the mirror, I'm going to see a penis growing out of my forehead? The doctor says, oh, no. The balls will cover your eyes.
That's what you want to hear from Buddy Hackett.
It's exactly. He didn't say he just did that. And then he told another one. And then and then we talked.
Right. That's great. It's nice to meet your heroes when they're cool. And that's
He was hilarious and cool.
Yeah, that's great. So, all right. So, did you continue? You continued your comedy at Harvard.
Well,
What were you studying?
Prior to this, so I go to high school with Tom Davis.
That's right.
And he's a year younger than me. And we had assembly, and I saw him do an announcement for something in assembly, and he was hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went up to him and I said, "You're funny," and we became obviously very close friends. Started doing comedy. We started doing stand-up. We started working in a kind of a Second City-like place in Minneapolis called the Brave New Workshop. And we get up while we were in high school and do that. And then, so I go to college, and I met my wife, Franny, first week of college. And so about, I don't know, a month in or something, I'm on the math science track, and I'm just going like, oh my God, I don't think I want to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And Franny says, why don't you go to the counselor's office? And, okay. So I go there, and they give me the Minnesota multiphasic personality test.
Okay.
And what it is it's like 500 statements that you answer, that you say yes or no to.
Mm-hmm.
And when I wrote a book recently, which was sort of a memoir, I had remembered one statement from it, which is, I have had black and tarry bowel movements. And so I Googled it. This is how I know it was the Minnesota Multiphasic Inventory. I think that's what it's called. So I Googled that, and it all comes back. This is the only statement in the 500 statements of the Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory that people remember years later. So anyway, so I take this thing. There are 500 of these, and you go yes or no, yes or no.
Right.
And I get the results back.
Right.
And there's what career your personality is suited for. Comedian is not on the list. It was not considered a career back then. And so first of all, the dead last was scientist.
Okay, forget that.
Mm-hmm. And then number one was camp counselor
Okay.
or jazz musician. Those are one and two.
Okay.
And I didn't play a musical instrument,
Right.
and I'd never gone to camp. And
So,
so I just put those together and said, oh, they want me to be a comedian.
yeah, that makes sense. You did your own. You filled one in. So did you have pressure from your parents? You know, like you're at the big time school, and you know,
Nope.
no
No
pressure.
pressure at all.
Oh, great. So they supported. So how did you? What did you do to pursue your comedy, and what did you finish? What did you study while you were at Harvard? If you were bailing on the science.
I bailed on science and went to social sciences. I did behavioral sciences, which is actually came in useful as a senator and comes useful in life. And what basically I just kept working with Tom. And so summers we would do shows at Dudley Briggs' Brave New Workshop, and we were getting paid. So we were like doing
Was
gigs.
this late 60s? When was this?
Early 70s, really.
Okay.
Yeah, like 70, 71, 72.
Okay.
And then between my junior and senior year, we hitchhiked out to LA
Okay.
to the Comedy Store. A friend of ours, Pat Proft, who had been at the Brave New Workshop, and who's an incredibly accomplished, well-known, successful comedy writer. He was performing at the Comedy Store, and he got us a spot.
Okay.
And we actually kind of killed. And so we were now a little bit on the map.
Yeah.
Comedians who other comedians kind of know.
Right.
And then my senior year, Tom just moved into my room. And,
at school. At school.
At school.
Okay.
And
he didn't go there, just to clarify.
He really was not a very good student.
Okay.
And he and I would go down on weekends to the Improv in New York. So we drive from Boston and my uncle had given me like a 60 something Buick LeSabre. And we'd bomb down there, and we'd take a few Harvard students who would pay for the gas and go 90 miles an hour and scare the shit out of them. And we blow out tires all the time. We had retreads.
Why not? Just good old fashioned fun.
And then we go down and perform on weekends at the Improv. And with Jay Leno did the same thing we did. He came down on weekends too. He was in Boston working in cars. And let's see who else was there.
So this was what you were going to do. Like at what point did you say, this is going to be my life and my career?
Black and Tarry bowel movements.
Okay, good. All right. Yeah. That was it. In a related story, I get those screeners, for the awards. And a few years ago, there was a movie, maybe it was Johnny Depp. It was called Black Mass. Have you ever heard of this movie?
Black Mask?
Black Mass, MASS.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So
wait a minute. Wait a minute. This wasn't about the Boston.
No. This was before that.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
But anyway, my joke when I got it was, because I'd never heard of the movie, which I said in front of the family, was, well, I guess this is about what's in the toilet the day after Thanksgiving. To which my mother-in-law basically reacted how you're reacting. She literally went, okay.
I should get my grandson down here. He would.
Oh yeah.
That.
Okay. Well, you're the one that brought in Black and Tarry bowel movements. So.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
It's
of course.
It's a little bit of a tangent, but.
Yeah.
So you were down, and so when you moved to LA after your senior year, or when did you move?
Yeah, we drove out. Me, Franny, and Tom drove out to LA, and
what was your mindset? Did you have a place lined up where you were going to live, or were you just going to go figure it out, or what?
We had friends there.
Okay.
you know, and so we figured we'd just get a cheap apartment.
Yeah.
And we did. And in
Where was
like
it?
East Hollywood, like
Okay.
you know, kind of Western and La Brea or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you know, and it was cheap. And we did the Comedy Store, and then we took odd jobs. We were Santa Claus at, you know, Christmas at the
You
Sears
were.
of Hollywood, and
That's funny.
then we started getting gigs. We started getting gigs like college gigs in the Midwest. We had a booker from in Minnesota and we get like $500 to do.
So what was your show? What, I mean, just generally, was it just a two-man stand-up thing? You would act out bits? What, you know?
Yeah, we were big Bob and Ray fans.
Yes.
As you know, I've encouraged you to start
Yes.
getting to know
It's
Bob
great.
and Ray.
It's great.
Yeah, Bob and Ray are just sort of iconic, iconic team that you know. David Letterman says that he doesn't trust anyone who doesn't love Bob and Ray.
Right.
And I think that means anyone who knows them and doesn't like. And so we did a lot of, and what they do is like one's a straight man, one's the other guy,
Right.
and sometimes both of them are. Anyway, you have to see Bob and Ray, I guess, to understand it.
Yeah.
But we were very, very influenced by them. So we did a lot of, we would do a lot of like, you know, with me is a male prostitute who, during these difficult economic times, has become. Now, are you gay? Nope. No, I do this to support my family.
Right.
And you know, and we would do it was a little Bob and Ray with a little bit of an edge.
Yeah.
And you know, I think the first bit we ever did, and this is what we did, the first bit we did at Dudley Riggs Brave New Workshop was a newscast the night of the day of World War III. And it was always, it started with a tragedy, death, catastrophe. Highlight tonight's news after this message. And then it would be like it was an ad for Jim Crow rice. Everything
Oh,
is,
God,
every
yeah.
grain is separate but equal. And then we go, well, today it happened, World War III, exchange of nuclear, you know, with, you know, 120 million Russians dead, so Americans, and so Chinese. And now with the sports, you know, and then, or now with the weather, Barney Johnson. Well, temperature's up to 8,000 degrees in Twin Cities.
Right.
Tonight, cooling off tomorrow to an uninhabitable 450.
Right. Take the concept and run with it.
Yeah, so we just did a bit, and it got a lot of laughs, you know, and so that was our first bit.
So you were based in LA, and you would travel around and do those shows, and I assume you did some other shows in LA. Were you now writing? You said had you written other bits before you that weren't necessarily for you when you were approached?
As I said, this agent came to us.
Yeah.
He saw us at the Comedy Store, and he said, I really like your material. I like you write. I like you guys too, but have you thought of writing for a show? And we went, yeah, we need, you know, we'd like to earn some money doing
what year was that? Was that right before SNL, or was it?
No, it was about, I don't know, I think it was about 4 or 5 months, maybe 6 months before. And we found out on a Friday that we were supposed to show up on a Monday in New York for this for the show that Lorne Michaels, who had done the Lily Tomlin specials, that he, you know, that he was producing, and we flew out and went to 30 Rock.
Yeah.
And fortunately, my brother was living in New York at the time, so we crashed there.
Mm-hmm.
And we were paid $300 a week between the two of us. We were hired
As a
as
team. Yeah, they split it.
one apprentice writer.
Yeah.
But boy, did we not care.
Right.
And then we got a raise like 6 weeks later. But the first person we met was waiting for the elevator at 30 Rock was Mike O'Donoghue, one of the founders of National Lampoon, guy with just a brilliant guy with an incredibly dark sense of humor. And the first thing he said to us, "How much are you guys being paid?"
Right.
And he told him, he said, "I spend that much to shine my cat's shoes."
Nice. Put you in your place right away.
Yeah, and we love Mr. Mike, and at that point, the only people who had been cast were Danny and Gilda, who were both Canadians.
Right.
Or Gilda was from Detroit, but she had been in Toronto.
Right.
And so, and then we were there for the auditions, and Belushi did Samurai for the auditions.
So did you get hired based on your material, or did Lorne know you?
The material. He did not meet. We were the only writers he hired without meeting us.
Wow. Okay. So strong. And how long had you been working as a team at that point? I know you started in high school, but 10 years?
Yeah. Well, let me see. At that time, I was 24. So I'd say about 8 years.
Okay. Yeah. So you probably had your 10,000 hours, which,
My 10,000 what?
Your 10,000 hours. That's one of those, one of those books. What's his name? Thank you. Malcolm Gladwell.
That was my daughter.
Yeah. So I had my 10,000 hours. I had my 8 years from the time I had embarked in comedy to when Family Guy started. So that's an interesting threshold. And you showed up ready to be one of the heavy lifters, one of the hitters on staff.
The first thing we did was write commercial parodies. That was the first thing. Lorne, the show was different in so many different ways. He had done Laugh-In. And at Laugh-In, the writers and the performers were like on the lot, and the writers weren't. They were in like some building.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. And so he really put us all together. Obviously, the way it is done now and should have been done always, but we were all together, and he wanted us to sort of write so that we kind of started to develop a sort of the show started to develop a feel to it that we all got to get a sensibility. Right. And one of the first things we did was commercial parodies, and I think Tom and I had like three of those right away. And so, and then the show evolved. If you look at the very first show, it was George Carlin. He I think did 2 monologues. We had another comedian, Valerie Bromfield, on. We had like 2 or 3 musical guests. It was really like midnight variety with an emphasis on comedy. Yeah. And then it evolved pretty quickly. Lily Tomlin, I think, was the first show that would be what the show sort of ended up as. And Chevy was dominating. Update was so popular. Yeah. And oddly, when he left, the rest of the cast had, they were emerging anyway. They were so talented. This show had the luxury of kind of picking the best of the generation. Sure, because it was so cool. So it was so different. Well, it was just the baby boomers were allowed on TV for the first time. As I said, the only other shows were Carol Burnett, which they were brilliant. Sure, different deal. Yeah, but different generation. So we were a counterculture. Yeah, show. We were considered a counterculture show, and when I finally realized that we weren't a counterculture show anymore was when George H.W. Bush picked Dan Quayle for his running mate, and some reporter asked Quayle who his favorite musician at Woodstock was, and he said Jimi Hendrix.
Right.
And I just went, okay, there's no real counterculture anymore.
Yeah.
It's all over.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting as you're talking, and it kind of makes me feel good, is you're talking about arriving for this gig and you had this material, and it's actually quite similar to when I started at Family Guy. And as we've talked about, I was really wanting to be on SNL, and that's sort of that was my pursuit. And then Seth called, and I went out there, and I had commercial parodies ready to go. Literally. And I, you know, and I believe Family Guy is just sort of an escalation of SNL in a hyper real, you know, or a hyper whatever,
Well,
a modern way.
The ability to cut away to anything and
Yes.
go wherever you wanted to go.
Yeah.
Had that feeling of Python, first of
Yeah.
all, too.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, had the sensibility of irreverence, I guess.
Yeah.
For
it's
what
very
it's worth.
similar. It is. Yeah, man. So then you had a great gig. How you were at SNL the first time for 10 years?
5 years.
5 years. Okay.
From 75 to 80. And then Lauren left and we left. Everybody left.
Right.
And then Tom and I did a lot of college gigs, wrote some stuff, did a movie, you know, and that was 5 years. Lauren did something called The New Show, which was a bomb. And then in 85,
To put it gently,
it was. I mean,
no, okay.
It was just a mistake in the way that it was doing Saturday Night Live, but on tape, and just didn't work.
Sure.
At all. I mean, there's some great stuff on it, and there were some great writers and great performers, but still, it didn't work.
No.
So then NBC asked Lauren to come back in 85, and Tom and I were Lauren Again writers.
There you go.
And so I did 85 to 95.
That's when you were there for 10 years. That's right.
So I had 15 seasons. Yeah.
And I mean, what an evolution, you know, from a bunch of stoned post beatniks into sort of a well-oiled comedy machine, eh?
Well, I mean, if you look at comedy and comedians and, you know, what SNL has generated in terms of Tina Fey, Will Ferrell, Amy Poehler, Eddie Murphy. I mean, you know, you can go on and on and on.
Sure.
Ed Armisen and Bill Hader and just, you know, Maya Rudolph and just it goes on and on and on.
Al Franken.
And so it, you know, it's Saturday Night Live. It's that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So so after all that, so you got this. You've always been a man of the people, and you wrote in your most recent book about why you wanted to get into politics, and that was because you had seen good programs work for people who needed help, and you wanted to help those who needed help.
Well, I also, you know, my dad was a Republican until 1964.
Okay.
And sort of during the civil rights movement, I'm like, you know, 12 years old, 1963, 64. We always watched the news every night. Mm-hmm. And we did it on tray tables. We had really good, my mom was a great cook. We weren't having TV dinners, but we, on tray tables, watched Huntley Brinkley or Walter Cronkite.
Mm-hmm.
And during the civil rights movement and the demonstrations down there, and there'd be footage on TV of Southern police and the sheriffs putting dogs on demonstrators and using clubs and fire hoses. And my dad would point to the TV and say, "No Jew can be for that. No Jew can be for that."
Mm.
And so, and I had the Holocaust pounded in my head and all. So in 64, when the Republicans nominated Barry Goldwater, who had voted against this 1964 Civil Rights Act, my dad became a Democrat.
Yeah.
And it was all based on that.
Right.
Right and wrong.
Right.
You know?
Sure.
And he had grown up in New York, and in the New York Republicans, the Jacob Javitzes, I mean, this may not mean anything to a lot of people watching, but that was a different kind of, those were good government Republicans. And Democrats had Tammany Hall and were kind of corrupt. And so that's why my dad was sort of a progressive Republican, which used to exist.
Right.
And then after 64, he just became a Democrat. He was against the war,
right?
The Vietnam War, not just because he didn't want his sons to have to go to Vietnam, but he was against the war for the right, for all the reasons.
Sure.
And so that I just grew up in a house where all of this stuff was important.
And that was
so. I wrote a lot of the political stuff over the years with Jim Downey, who also is Republican, but a moderate Republican who hates Trump, of course. And
we're not going to go too far down that road.
You don't have to, but I'm just explaining that I wrote a lot of the political stuff.
Right.
And I wrote it with Jim. And at the time, we really felt that the job of the show was to do well-observed political satire, but not take sides.
Right.
And Jim had this thing, which was reward people for knowing stuff, but don't punish them for not.
Right.
So the way we wrote our stuff, very, very, very consciously and deliberately, was to make it accessible to pretty much anyone.
Right.
And yet, if you actually followed politics,
right, there's another layer.
Rewarded, you would hear things like going like, "Oh, I would not hear that anywhere else other than this show."
Right.
So we worked together. I mean, Jim also was there. He came the second year, but we were there all those years. Right. I was there, and we wrote a shitload of stuff together.
Yeah. I was going to ask you at what point, did you have that? I'm always wondering about people's thing that's gnawing at them. Did you sort of have a sense at some point that you were going to actually go into politics while you were writing these things? No. Okay.
No, I did political satire.
Right.
I would do political satire in my comedy, doing stand-up with Tom. I would do it. I did a couple White House Correspondents' dinners, like in 94, 96. I knew an awful lot. What I said about doing the White House Correspondents' Dinner, doing the White House Correspondents' Dinner is like doing a scrap metal convention if you knew an incredible amount about scrap metal.
Okay. Right.
I very, very, very much followed politics all the time. Read and followed it. That was my passion.
Right.
So, when I didn't get
Al, I think you're frozen. Can people hear me or hear Al? There you go. There you go.
I'm sorry.
All right, you're back. That's okay.
Okay. I was on low power mode or something like that. Okay. So where was I? I was, what was I saying? When I didn't get update. So I leave the show, and they made the right choice. It was Norm Macdonald. He was great.
Right.
And I was by that point, it was so clear that I was a liberal.
Right.
That
Right.
the host shouldn't have their politics on their sleeve.
Right.
So what I did was I wrote a book called Rush Limbaugh is a Big Fat Idiot and Other Observations.
Right.
And so that's what I did. And I remember putting the book to bed. What happened was they had the Gingrich Revolution, right, in 94.
Right.
So Clinton is elected in 92. The midterms in 94 are a disaster for Democrats. And Gingrich becomes the speaker. And Rush Limbaugh is sort of became an honorary member of that class in Congress.
Mm-hmm.
And he was
This was before
lying.
he got the medal.
I don't want to get into politics because
no, it's okay. No, it's okay.
So I wrote this book, and I remember a publisher had approached me because I'd done the White House Correspondents' Dinner saying you should write a book. So I just immediately came back with, I got the book. It's Rush Limbaugh is a Big Fat Idiot and Other Observations.
Right.
And she goes, well, you have to write about Rush Limbaugh then. I went, no. It's a satire about the breakdown in civil discourse.
Correct.
And about lying and the acceptability of lying. And you would not have Trump if you didn't have Rush Limbaugh.
Right.
So anyway, I write that book and I put the book to bed and I get depressed because then I have nothing to do. And I go to I really am depressed, and I go to a psychiatrist for the first time, and they prescribe me something like Prozac or something. And the day I started taking it, the book came out and was #1 on the New York Times bestsellers.
Goodbye, Prozac.
Prozac worked incredibly well.
Oh, okay. That's great. And so then did you start having that urge to run and get involved?
No. What did it was the 2002 election in Minnesota. Mm-hmm. Paul Wellstone. I used to do fundraisers for politicians I believed in, and the one I did the most for was Paul Wellstone, who was senator from Minnesota. Right. And in 2002, about 2 weeks before the election, he died with his wife and daughter and staffers and the 2 pilots in a plane crash. And
you wanted to carry his
it, but it's very emotional to me.
Yeah.
And I did not. Norm Coleman won. And a few months after being in office, he said, to be blunt, I'm a 99% improvement over Paul Wellstone.
That didn't sit well.
I wonder who's going to beat this asshole.
Yeah.
And that's when I started to think about it.
Yeah. I listened to all this in your book, and then you went for it and you won. But let me jump to reasonable conversation, with people on that you don't see eye to eye with politically. You seem to do that now, despite writing books entitled Rush Limbaugh's a Big Fat Lying Idiot or whatever.
Big Fat Idiot and Other Observations.
Right. So you're making jokes. You're making observations. So people who understand that are not going to be necessarily offended by that unless they can't take it, unless they don't believe in what they're saying.
Or unless they want to be offended.
Correct. So how can we...
There's a lot of that.
Al, how do we get to a place? I have friends who are very liberal and friends who are very conservative, and there are times when I voice an opinion, if I don't agree with something, but for the most part, I don't let that kind of govern my friendships. I don't, I respect, who am I to tell this person? I will certainly present my thoughts on something, but if they're going to see it differently and I like a lot of other things about them, then we'll go on and we'll be friends. So how can we get to that? Can we ever get back to that, Al?
Well, part of it is having, you know, not being too judgmental, just because someone has a different political point of view doesn't mean they're a bad person. You know,
Sure.
there is, however, it's hard. It's hard because
it's emotional.
It's very emotional, and you know, it's just a very difficult time right now. We're very, very divided. You know, I know you don't want this to be at all political, but I think we have a president who is invested in dividing people.
Sure. Well, I think there's a culture of fear that really works on both sides, and it's certainly working for the man in power right now.
Believe me, I know about it working on both sides.
Yeah, yeah. And fear is, you know, on a personal level, that's the thing that is going to keep you from reaching authenticity. I mean, there's the darkness and despair brought on by fear, whatever it is. You know, I would love to go and dance on Broadway, but I'm afraid that I would, you know, get beat up in New York. You know, it's like, no, you got to want it more than, you know, like I'm constantly trying to encourage people to just get rid of that.
Well, that's what this is about.
That's what this is about, and it's
not
what
about is encouraging people to pursue their passion and not be afraid.
Yeah.
And it is, you do need the 10,000
hours
or whatever, hours, 10,000 hours in many of these things. You know, I think I've told you this before, but at SNL, when I was at SNL, every once in a while, someone's nephew or something wanted to be a comedy writer. And they'd come talk to me, and the first thing I'd always say is, "Are you writing comedy?" And if they said no, I'd say, "Fuck you." And if they didn't laugh, I said, "Okay, it's all over. Fuck you." You know. And then, but you know, you got to do it. And I remember once I had this. I don't know why I saw him. But it was a guy, he was going to Columbia, and I said, "Are you writing comedy?" And he said, "Well, I don't really have time because I'm on the varsity basketball team." I said, "So you aren't writing comedy?" "No." I go, "Okay, let me ask you, to be in the NBA, do you think someone should have played basketball?"
That's so true. You got to do it. You got to get over your fear. You got to identify it or feel it. You got to get over your fear in pursuing it, and you got to do it like it's the only thing in the world, and you got to persevere, and you'll make it.
And there's ways to do it. I mean, there's, you know, Upright Citizens Brigade. You know, just take lessons.
Yeah,
from
I did
place,
that.
And just that teaches you some fearlessness, right? Because you're supervising, and you know,
you got no material. Yeah.
Nothing bad happens if it's not great.
Sure.
You know,
sure. That's it. We're all gonna die. That's the thing. So we're all gonna die.
Well, we don't have to go that far.
That's where
to take chances.
Do what you do. Yeah, do what you do. You know, and I don't know. Well, you're good at doing what you do. So talk to me about your relationship with the Grateful Dead. We're both big Dead fans, whatever you want to call it. And you first saw they played on SNL when you were there.
Yeah, well, that's when I first met them. But I've been a Deadhead before that. In fact, Tom introduced me to the Dead when, you know, when I was in college, and I'd just been a huge Deadhead, and there's nothing like a Grateful Dead show.
Nope.
And I love the music. I love their zeitgeist. I love the joy you feel, the sense of community that you feel when you go to their concerts. I love their concerts. You know, I think we were talking just that day, like Eagles are great. The Eagles are great, but you go to one Eagles concert, you don't have to go to another Eagles concert.
Yeah.
They play those songs perfectly.
Sarah and I saw them at the Hollywood Bowl, and it was perfect. And we'll never have to see them again.
Yeah, or you could see him once every 10 years or something.
Sure,
You know,
sure.
but the Dead, they were, you know, among every other things, because there are a lot of things, are a jam band,
Mm-hmm.
and every night was different.
Mm-hmm.
And the feeling that you got, there's something about the sense of uh, being part of humanity
Yeah,
that you
of a
get
oneness.
there, and yet it's kind of an individual experience at the same time.
Yep.
So
Well,
there are a
yeah.
lot of people I know who just don't like the Grateful Dead, and I
Right.
I understand that, but I actually don't, because I
Right.
think they're unbelievable. I put a set list or something on Spotify.
Yep.
If anyone wants to go to that,
Yeah.
doesn't know the Dead.
What do they search for on Spotify? Al Franken's
I
set
think it's
list or
Al Franken
Grateful
Grateful Dead
Dead?
list or something like that. Yeah.
Okay. Great, great. But yeah, but you and I have seen the Dead together. We were in Mexico in
Yeah.
January, and it's just it's all everything you just said about a group consciousness and a oneness with humanity and the universe, but also with yourself, and so basically you're
It's
shrooming.
also fun.
Um, so what?
It's also fun.
Yeah. No, it's whether you have some kind of a buzz going or you're just it's all the same thing. It's just kind of these magical moments, and you know we definitely are going to always agree on this. I love it.
Yeah. No, no. I always will be a huge deadhead. So
Yeah. Awesome. Well, this thing's going to cut us off in a couple minutes. Any thoughts you have for anyone that's locked down right now, that's in kind of a despair or just a general malaise or depression over this? Can we?
well, everyone says stay safe. I say stay sane.
Mm-hmm.
It's not easy. This is not easy, and unfortunately, it's I've been talking on my podcast I just did an interview which will be up next week with Larry Brilliant, who's a epidemiologist, who's one of the people that eradicated smallpox from the face of the earth. So
Mm-hmm.
he did that.
Yeah.
And we talk a lot about this, but you know, what was nice about it is that we're both aligned politically, but we just spent almost no time on Trump and
Yeah.
the fault or the
Right.
lost 2 months.
Right. Right.
And
Uh-oh. Freezing up.
it happened again.
Yeah, no, you're good. You're good.
And but this is hard. I mean, there's so many. This is revealing so many problems that we have in our
Yeah.
society. There's a New York Times article, I think it was today. 1 out of 5 kids in our country doesn't have enough to eat. That was the New York Times. You have these issues of people working in meatpacking plants. The president finally does the Defense Production Act and forces them to go and risk their lives,
Right.
so that we can have meat.
Right.
More. And
we're winding down. It's going to get us here in a second. It literally will cut off at the top of the hour.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But I want everyone to consider tuning into your podcast, which is great. I've just actually
the Al Franken podcast.
The Al Franken podcast.
Pardon the egotism.
Yes. Well, you got to name it so people will know where to go. So yeah, man. So I'm thrilled that you came on here with me. I think you have so much to offer. There've been a lot of things scrolling by here. Come back to politics, come save us. We love you, all that kind of stuff. And, you are a man of great integrity and comedy and living your best life. And, I'm honored to be your friend.
Well, I'm so pleased to be with you. I've gotten to know you. The first time we met was at a Waffle House.
Yep.
Halfway in between, your place, my place in D.C.
Yep, yep,
And I said, let's go to a Waffle House.
yep, yep. And that was right after I'd gotten on a health kick, but I did it anyway. And I ate a big ass waffle.
Yeah, well, how can you not?
Yeah.
And
It's
so
going to get us.
It's been a joy working with you, and you know, I love your work too. I love, obviously.
We're getting cut off.